you that, um, oops, yeah, okay. Yeah, there were several parts where I showed you some of the kind of a breakdown as far as what makes something an LTL load. Okay. I mean, if you are a customer trying to ship something and you've got maybe only 3 pallets of things that you want to move across the United States, who are you going to call? Are you going to buy an incredibly large truck to move your 3 pallets of freight, or are you going to contact somebody who can move it across the country at perhaps a much lesser rate that perhaps makes a little bit more sense for your budget? When you use a truckload carrier, you are purchasing the whole truck. Okay. Doesn't matter if you use 1/3 of it, 1/2 of it, or 100% of it. Okay. If you use a truckload carrier, you pay for it all. LTL carriers, however, are very different. Okay. If you've got 3 pallets of freight, you're going to be charged individually for each pallet. And the nice thing about LTL carriers, quite commonly, they have diminishing prices for every single pallet that you turn over to them. Okay, so if maybe the first pallet is somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I don't know, first pallet costs you maybe $300. Second pallet might cost you $270. Third pallet might cost you $240. Okay, the prices go down when you give them more freight. And again, still the freight prices that are being given factor in distance being moved, but additionally weight that is being moved, just like truckload carriers. Um, but I will tell you, it's definitely much more economical to use an LTL carrier if you have small amounts of freight, as opposed to possibly spending several $1,000s for an entire trailer. Okay, it just makes sense. It's also it gets it there, and everything is good. But there are some things that you have to think about when you use an LTL carrier. Um, I guess we can start with some of the positives of using an LTL carrier. I mean, there are definite positives. I mean, it's much more affordable. Okay. They are just like a truckload carrier. They will come to your building. They will pick up whatever you need. They will drive off with it, and ultimately it will get to the end destination. However, when you perhaps load your freight onto one of their trucks that comes by for a visit, you will notice that as you slide your freight on, there's a whole bunch of other customers' freight sitting on that truck as well. Okay. LTL carriers mix lots of different customers' freight together. Okay. You're not getting your own personalized little tiny trailer. You're getting a smaller type of trailer, or maybe even a bigger trailer that has a whole bunch of different customers. Okay. So when you have that sort of thing going on, I mean, it makes sense for the trucking company. They get to maximize their resources. And oh, darn it, I just had everybody. And then somebody just dropped off. I had everybody in class. Darn it. Who just dropped off? Oh, well. Okay. So, anyway, I will say that it makes sense for, oh, Akerson's back, and I've got everybody. Okay. So, yeah, so I mean, really, it makes sense for them. It makes sense for the customer. I mean, everybody is happy in this type of a relationship. However, there's a couple things that you got to know about LTL carriers. One of them is that, well, I mean, let's start with the positives. Let's not bash them just yet. But I mean, yeah, they have the capacity. They're cheaper. I mean, there's good points. They get the job done. It works for them. It works for you. However, there are definitely some things that you need to consider if you're thinking about using an LTL carrier. First thing is that if you want to use an LTL carrier, you should be prepared to possibly have your freight take a little bit longer. Okay. While I described yesterday a shipment leaving Hebron, Kentucky and going to Dallas, Texas, it was a 13-hour drive, and definitely that load would get there in a single day, if not less than a single day. I will tell you that LTL carriers are not that fast. Okay. Now, you can pay all sorts of money and make them faster. Okay. They all have like upgraded services that if you pay us even more money, we'll get your stuff there super fast. But the vast majority of LTL shipments are much slower than a truckload carrier. Okay. Truckload carrier picks it up, goes immediately to your end destination point for delivery. LTL carriers take a bit more of a circular route, and that's what you need to take a. Well, we'll show you a little graphic here in just a moment. Another thing that we should mention is the fact that LTL carriers, just because you have freight that is being mixed on these trailers, you sometimes have issues with um, sometimes damage because you've got lots of hands touching them, lots of forklifts moving stuff around. You also have the possibility of there being theft. Okay. I once unfortunately had an associate that worked for me that unfortunately, when he was loading the truck with the freight at the company that he and I both worked for, he noticed that there was some really nice looking stuff on this pallet that had been loaded on at the previous stop. And unfortunately, this young man decided to take some of that product from the previous customer that had just gotten picked up, and he thought that nobody would know, and nobody did know, at least for a little while. But all of a sudden we started to notice after the LTL carrier saying, we think we've got an issue. We just looked at the pallet, it got loaded the previous stop. We looked at it after your stop, Mr. Skeen, and then all of a sudden it has been opened, and there are things that are missing from it. Eventually, we were able to nail down the fact that the young man had indeed taken something off of it. But it did take a little while. And in the meantime, some other customer was being negatively impacted by stealing. And it's not just other customers stealing from them. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens at LTL carriers. Theft happens in lots of different places, ways, shapes, or forms. It happens in the private world, it happens in the business world, it happens at school, it happens all over the darn place. Unfortunately, it is a sad fact of life, but it's something that you do need to be aware of, and it's something that in business it happens when you sometimes ship LTL because freight is all mixed together. We've got freight going on one truck, two trucks, three trucks. There's just so many hands that are touching these pallets. They may not be physically touching them, they might be picking them up with a forklift, but there's lots of individuals that are around looking at the pallets, touching the pallets, pushing the pallets. Just, I mean, it leads to, if you got something that looks kind of interesting to someone, it sometimes happens that individuals will pop open a box and see what's inside. Um, so anyway, that is something that can happen. Additionally, damage is something that definitely occurs when you have LTL carriers, as opposed to you loading freight on the truck, you closing the door. Maybe before you closed the door, you made sure everything was loaded exactly the way that you wanted it, so it wouldn't shift in transit. Everything was just absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, in LTL carriers, that's not the case. You can put it on your truck in a very nice manner and it's sitting nice and pretty on that truck. But as soon as that truck pulls away from your building, guess what? You have all of a sudden said goodbye to that pallet. Yes, it is in the carrier's control, and all of a sudden it has then started to take a trip that we're going to take a look at here on this very next. I'll share my screen, but all of a sudden it is off on a very lengthy trip that has oftentimes many stops on it. Okay, you got one stop and one stop only, the end destination for a truckload carrier. For LTL carriers, you got a whole lot more. So let's take a look at some of this flow that you might see in the life of some pallets. One that decides to get sent out on a truckload shipment, the other one that happens to get sent out on an LTL shipment. Okay, so let's take a look here with the truckload stuff that we talked about yesterday still fresh in our head. Let's just pretend we have this theoretical company. They are in beautiful Hebron, Kentucky. They are called Company A. They have two shipments, one big, one small. Okay, if we take a look here, they decide to use this beautiful orange truck right here. Orange is Mr. Steen's favorite color. This particular carrier is called Schneider National, and as a boy, Mr. Skeen always wanted to be a truck driver for Schneider National because they had orange trucks. That never exactly worked out, but doggone it, I sure wanted to be a truck driver for Schneider National because of their orange trucks. Anyway, we move on. So the first shipment that we've got is a 37 pallet shipment going to somewhere down in the great state of Georgia. Okay? Going to Georgia. I mean, not too terribly far away, definitely closer than Dallas, Texas. Hop, skip, and a jump away, boom, you're in Dallas, you're in Georgia. Okay. We've got another shipment that we take a look at, and it is going to Kansas. However, this shipment is not 37 pallets, it is only 4 pallets. Okay. Now, when we talk about LTL carriers, when I talk about LTL carriers, those are oftentimes the carriers that you see out on the road that have these multiple trucks linked together and being pulled by a single rig. Okay. You see some sort of a configuration of a truck that looks like that, that is an LTL carrier. As I said, there's about 150 of them in the United States, much smaller than the total number of drivers and trucks in the truckload industry. But the LTL trucks that you see here, there's 2 of them linked together. They are the exact same lengths. These 2 things right here are the exact same combined length as one of these things. Okay, exact same length. So you're basically pulling the same amount of things around. It, however, allows you to, when they're linked together, you can essentially move the same amount of freight as one of these guys up here. If you can think about it, sometimes you might see one of these LTL carriers pulling around just one of these trailers. Okay. When that occurs, they are very maneuverable, at least as far as a truck is concerned. I mean, a small truck like this can get into a smaller company's dock. Maybe some companies don't even have a dock. I mean, there was some neighbor of mine that got delivered a couch, and the person that shipped them, or the company that shipped them the couch, they sent it on one of these LTL carriers. And what did the LTL carrier do? He had like an elevator that he shoved the couch onto. It dropped it down to ground level, and he shoved it off of the elevator, and then he drove away. Okay. LTL carriers are not really meant to be moving furniture, so they got it to the destination and then they drove away. So that was interesting. I got to help my neighbor carry in a couch. So next thing is So, I mean, definitely a difference in the configuration between these two trucks. Okay, so we take our shipment going to the great state of Georgia, 37 pallets. It's on our Schneider National yellow truck, or pardon me, orange truck, and it is 53 feet long. If you remember it, this is more or less 53 feet in length as well. There could very well be 37 pallets on these two trailers right here. Heck, there could be even more than 37 pallets. I'm telling you right now, it is always in everyone's best interest if you are paying for the truck, the gas, for the driver. If you are doing all that, you want to be able to maximize your resources because up here, someone else is paying the bill. Okay, and if they decide to only stick 37 pallets onto something, well, that's their problem, I guess. But if they don't have anything else to send, they can't send any more. Okay, so the truckload shipment, it's on the truck. It got loaded up in Hebron, Kentucky. Boom, let's scroll on down here. The freight is picked up from the shipper and it moves directly to the endpoint destination. There are no stops. And then all of a sudden, it delivers to Company C in McDonough, Georgia. McDonough, Georgia. Okay, just right outside of Atlanta. And McDonough is McDonough is the next destination. I mean, if you were to hop in a car right now, you could end up in McDonough, Georgia, I would say in probably about 8 hours. So, I mean, it's a quick trip. Okay. It went directly from the dock of Company A up here, and then the next person that touched the freight was the person that purchased whatever the heck Company A had shipping to them. No one else touched it in between. It went directly there. Let's take a look at what happens in the life of a pallet on an LTL trailer. Okay, as I told you, when somebody from an LTL carrier starts to come to your company, they will pick up whatever you have. However, you will notice that also on that same truck that is picking up your stuff, there's other customers' stuff on it. Okay. I mean, if you ever see one of these LTL trucks in the morning, they're making deliveries. If you see one out on the road in the evenings or in the afternoon, they're making pickups. Okay. So they deliver in the morning and pick up in the evening. So the 4 pallets of your freight from Company A get thrown onto the truckload or thrown onto the LTL truck. They might get loaded onto this one right here. And then this truck, all of a sudden, he says, okay, well, I'm full. I'm going to take it to my local terminal here in good old Florence, Kentucky. Okay, so already it's moved from Hebron to Florence. There might have been 1 or 2 stops after our pickup at our business in Hebron, but eventually it makes it to Florence, and it's maybe now 7 o'clock at night. Okay, what happens at 7 o'clock at night? Well, guess what? Your local terminal here in Greater Cincinnati gets takes that 4 pallet shipment that they got from you, and they send it then all of a sudden to a regional terminal in Indianapolis. Okay. And it probably leaves here at about 7. It gets to Indianapolis at around 9 o'clock. But chances are it's probably not moved all of that time at the same, or yeah, it probably would not have moved at that pace. I would expect it to probably be in Indianapolis sometime around midnight, 1 a.m. Okay. So all of a sudden, just from a pure standard or speed standpoint, I mean, by the time that the LTL carrier has gone to 1 destination, 2 destination, this truck load that went from your same company has already delivered and been unloaded by your customer down there in Georgia. Now, this one, your 4 pallets of LTL are going to Kansas. Okay, so all of a sudden your freight, your 4 pallets are in Indianapolis. What happens next? Well, it's getting there. It's moving west slowly but surely. Okay, the next stop is St. Louis, Missouri, another regional terminal for this LTL company that you've decided to use. Okay, they gave you a great price. It's a price you can live with. They said that they're going to get the freight to your end destination. It's in a time frame that you like. All is well. Okay. So all of a sudden, it moves from St. Louis. Okay. This is all the same company. Okay. The same company is here in Florence. The same company is here in Indianapolis. The same company is here in St. Louis. And then yet another stop at another regional LTL terminal. This one is now in Kansas City. Okay. Well, I said maybe around 1 a.m. It was of the same or of the following day. It was in Indianapolis. By the time it's here in Kansas City, I would easily say we're on the second day of life of this 4-pallet shipment. Okay. But we're not done yet. No, we are not done. All of a sudden, the regional terminal in Kansas City, Missouri sends it to a local terminal, which is super close to the end destination of your pallet, your customer that you had. I mean, you're working up here for company A, and ultimately you're trying to get it down here to your company B in good old Garden View, Kansas. Okay, a bustling metropolis. Okay, but it's just right outside of Topeka, and guess what? Your 4 pallets of freight have finally arrived. Okay, chances are the overall price for this LTL shipment was probably around 500, 600, maybe $700. Okay, your truckload shipment down to Georgia was probably going to be in the neighborhood of about $3,700. Okay. Now, you as a company, you have to weigh it in your minds. Does it make sense for me to spend $3,700 as opposed to $700 and pay a $3,000 extra dollars to get this shipment from Hebron all the way down here to Garden View? I don't know. You as a company have to figure that out. But there's a whole lot of stops along the way, and it takes longer. There's damage issues. I mean, every single time, what's going on at a lot of these terminals is the truck that your 4 pallets are on, they're getting pulled off. A lot of times by people that are under a tight deadline and they are trying to get the freight off super fast, and stuff gets damaged. Okay, that's not even introducing the theft thing that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so hopefully this little chart that I'm showing you here is worthwhile and gives you a little bit of an understanding as far as how things get there. I mean, the same LTL shipment to McDonough, Georgia, it probably would have been, I would say there's a very good chance it could be a 1-day shipment point. I probably should have used the same thing, but I wanted to show you the same destination. But I mean, there's a chance that an LTL carrier could get stuff down to Georgia in one single day. It is probably on the outskirts of, I don't know, it could take 1 day, it could take 2 days. Okay, so you will find this document on the weekly schedule for Thursday. There's a link to it. And if you want to take a look, see at that, feel free. And yeah, feel free to take a look at that. Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Skeen? Anyone? 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 No? Okay. Again, appreciate the presence of one and all. That is much appreciated. Let's see. I definitely am going to talk to Mr. Frazier. I will tell all of you, just giving you a heads up, I am going to send out the most recent updates of where you are at in Edgenuity. Okay. I know that I spent a little bit of time on Tuesday talking about Edgenuity, and I made a good number of you say that you were going to be making some progress on Edgenuity. And I'll tell you right now that some of you did do some progress since that time. Others have not so much, but that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of time left, but I'm Yeah, I mean, one of the responsibilities I have to do is I've got to make sure that you are hacking away at it. Now, if you tell me that all of a sudden I've got so much other homework from all these other people, I'm going to get to it later. Or I'll say, can you give me a plan if you don't give me some sort of a plan on when you can get to it? Okay. But there are lots of interested people that want to make sure that you not only get it done, but at the same time, get it done in a timely manner. So you will be getting an email update from me. We'll start out with the emails. It's something that I do probably just about every single week. So these will start going to you and your parent and guardians. Okay. So that is on the horizon. And I wish you all a good day. Okay. Tomorrow we will be in here, and I believe that we're going to be talking about ground parcel delivery. And I will say at that point, that's going to pretty much wrap up ground transportation. Okay. So, Monday of next week will be a little bit different. We've got some funky stuff that's going to be going on. And yeah. Okay. So I will say no more and wish everyone a good day. Does anyone have anything for me? If you do, please stay on. Otherwise, have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay? Goodbye.